What did you think, first of all, your reaction to the policy address? That was 2 hours long, 24,000 word speech. Did you find anything that gave you hope about the city and its economy?
Well, thank you for having me on. We were happy that the chief executive delivered her policy address finally, and we hope it helps in some way to restore confidence in business in Hong Kong. We would have liked to have seen more about public-private partnerships. We think the private sector has a role to play, specifically our members at the chamber. We would have liked to have heard more about that. We would have liked to have heard more about the GBA, what the plan is, what's the integration plan looking like for Hong Kong. We also would have liked to have seen more about local livelihood. How are young people going to be trained? And what are the jobs of the future? What industries of the future will Hong Kong be involved in? And finally, I think as a broad brush, we would have liked to have seen more about combating COVID, and does the government have any more comprehensive steps to do that?
What we didn't see during this speech this year was opposition lawmakers trying to get to the chief executive. It was a very different mood from what it was last year, right? So in that sense, that political tension seems to have died down, of course, because of Beijing tightening its grip on the city. How do your members feel about doing business in that environment? Because on the one hand, you have less protests, you have less of that fight that you had seen in the streets for over a year, but you have Beijing tightening its grip.
Yes, that's a very good question, one we get asked frequently. So our members are here because they want to do business in Hong Kong and Greater China. It's a great place to do business. It's a great environment, lots of talent, well-developed supply chains and resources. So our members want to be here. And they will be here probably through thick and thin unless things become too attenuated for them to stay. I think it depends if you go sector by sector. The tech companies, Google, Facebook, those people, they have real concerns about freedom of speech, curtailment, any sort of limits on that, and how they're going to relate to the government going into the future. So you have to take it step by step. But by and large, we don't see anyone leaving right now. Our members want to be here. And by the way, almost 50% of our members are not American. They're international companies.
All right, so conversely then, what proportion of your membership are you seeing actually just lean in to the closer cohesion with the mainland?
I think that's another good question. They'd love to lean in. They are ready to lean in, but we don't have a roadmap. We really don't have a lot of details. And if I could I have a little cheat sheet here, if you'd forgive me, but there's some areas where we think the government could improve that were not really discussed in the chief executive's policy address. Ride sharing, the gig economy, gender diversity, age discrimination, digital free trade agreements, fintech. There are a lot of areas where we would like to see more information and a conversation around so that our members could engage more.
Beyond, I guess, the changing nature of what Hong Kong might look like over the next few years, I'm wondering how the pandemic and, the closing of borders, the changing nature of globalization after 2020 has impacted your members too.
The main area is talent. It's very hard to get the talent that some of our members want in for a variety of reasons. One is perhaps there are visa issues. There's, of course, COVID. And the testing. And then there are people that wanted to come to Hong Kong, but the whole COVID situation has put them off, so they're staying put in their respective countries. That's probably the biggest impact so far.
Robert, in what sectors are most of your members, and which sectors are feeling the biggest hit from this pandemic and political tension-induced economic slump?
Well, it's a bit of across the board, but we're in everything from healthcare to manufacturing to apparel to finance, to tech, as I mentioned before. It's the range. We have a very broad and diversified membership, and everyone is feeling the pain, so to speak, a little bit, but I think they're all trying to stay the course and be here for the duration.
How do you feel about Hong Kong's future as a financial hub, especially when you're seeing more mainland cities emerge and be supported by the Beijing government when it comes to those financial exchanges?
Okay, so this is where I'm putting on my bullish hat. I'm very optimistic about the future of Hong Kong as a financial hub. It's one of the largest stock exchanges in the world. You have Stock Connect, Bond Connect, ETF Connect coming up. It is just too big to ignore. It is too diversified. You have common law, rule of law. You have transparency. That's very hard to find elsewhere in Asia and in China. So I think the future looks good. We have short-term roadblocks and challenges, but I think overall the future looks pretty good for Hong Kong.